Welcome to the 7.6 notes. We are going to be finding the zeros and solutions again today. One way that we've talked about already is square root method. Another way is factoring. These two only work out if the numbers work out. This one is sort of like the end-all be-all. You can always use the quadratic formula. Now, I know that it looks a little bit scary because it looks pretty complicated. There's actually a song that goes with it. Before I sing it for you, know that a quadratic formula is something you just plug numbers into. So if you take A, B, and C and you simply plug in the values and then you have to simplify it, those are going to be the zeros. So there's no real guesswork here, but you have to simplify that answer. And that's where things can get a little bit tricky. So here's the song that goes along with it. It goes to the tune of Pop Goes the Weasel, and it's x equals the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And it gets really stuck in your head. In fact, I suggest Googling quadratic formula song and find a song that's catchy to you to help you remember it. But one thing before we move on any further is this part is exactly what we did yesterday in 7.5. What that means is this was the thing that told you how many solutions there were. We had said if it was positive, then there are 2 solutions. If it is negative, there are no solutions. And if it was 0, there was 1 solution. The reason why is because there's this plus and minus in front. That's what this symbol means, is you have to split it up into one with a plus and one with a minus. If you add and subtract the square root of a positive number, that gives you 2 answers, one for the plus and one for the minus. If you plug in a negative number into that square root, you can't take the square root of a negative. That's why there's no answers. And if you plug in 0, the square root of 0 is 0. So it's going to be plus and minus the same number. So they're going to be the same solution. That's why there's only one answer. That's kind of where they come from. And we're going to work with the quadratic formula a little bit more to kind of help us find it. All of the ones we're doing today will have 2 answers to them. Okay? So what we're going to do first is rewrite the formula by substituting or plugging in A, B, and C. Then we're going to perform all operations underneath the square root first. And actually, I'm going to make a note right here that we are going to do b squared minus 4ac on the side. And I'll show you why in just a little bit. And that's because this part is the only part that gets a little complicated. Then, after you do the part under the square root, do the square root. And this is where you're going to get a little stuck. You have to set it up as 2 fractions, one with a plus and one with a minus. I'm going to go ahead and start the first example, and then I'll explain what number 5 looks like. So we're going to do b squared minus 4ac first. I'm always going to have you guys do this part sort of over here off to the side, and then we'll plug it in over here. Okay? So a is 2. B is 9, and C is 7. You can't start this problem unless you understand which one is A, B, and C. So since B is 9, we're going to have 9 squared minus 4. A is 2, and C is 7. So I have 9 squared, and I should have that in parentheses too, by the way. I forget them sometimes also. 9 squared minus 4 times 2 times 7. And that's 25. This is the number that goes right here under the square root. Okay, and then we're going to fill in the other numbers. It's the opposite of b plus or minus the square root. So the opposite of b goes in front. The opposite of 9 is negative 9. And then you have this plus and minus in between, because you got two solutions, one plus, one minus. And on the bottom, all over 2a. So 2a is 2 times 2, which is 4. Okay? And just to kind of help some of you who are probably like, what? This is negative b, this is 2a, and this is the b squared minus 4ac. Those are really the three parts. Opposite of b squared minus 4ac, and 2a. Just make sure you put this part in the square root. Then actually do the square root. That's square root of 25. Okay, to do the square root in a calculator, you're going to hit the blue button and then the x squared button. It's 5. So you have negative 9 plus 5 over 4 and negative 9 minus 5 over 4. So you've got to split it up into one with a plus and one with a minus. Now, negative 9 plus 5 is negative 4. And negative 9 minus 5 is negative 14. Don't forget the over 4. This is the spot where some people have forgotten. We got this 4 from doing the 2a. That was part of the formula up here. Okay. Really, it's all just following the formula. It's this part that gets a little annoying because you have to simplify it as far as you can. This divides to negative 1. And this divides to negative 14 divided by 4, a decimal. So instead of writing the decimal, instead of writing negative 3.5, what I want you to do is divide by the biggest number you can. Those can both divide by 2, and that's going to be negative 14 divided by 2 is negative 7. 4 divided by 2 is 2. Okay? Go ahead and pause the video if you need to review any of this before we move on to the next one. And I typically find that the second example really helps because then you get 2 examples of it. So the first thing I'm going to do is decide that a is 3, b is negative 8, and c is negative 3. And we're going to do b squared minus 4ac first, which hopefully you're getting a little used to that because we did it in 6.5 or 7.5 as well. So b is negative 8 squared minus 4, a is 3, c is negative 3. Calculator it up. 100. That's the number that goes in the square root. So x equals the opposite of b. So the opposite of negative 8 is 8. Opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, which is 100, all over 2a, which is 2 times 3, 6. Okay? Opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, all over 2a. You're just following that formula again and again and again. Now, the square root of 100 is 10. So you have 8 plus 10 over 6 and 8 minus 10 over 6. 8 plus 10 is 18, and 18 divided by 6 is 3. 8 minus 10 is negative 2, and negative 2 over 6 is a decimal, so we're going to divide both sides by 2. Negative 2 divided by 2 is negative 1. 6 divided by 2 is 3. And there's your 2 answers. What this means is that on a graph, This one would cross the x-axis at -1 and -3.5. This one would cross at 3 and -1/3. Okay, something kind of like this. Here's my graph. It would cross at 3 and -1/3, which would be just on the negative side. And since there's a positive in front, it would look something like this. Okay, so that's kind of the reason why we're finding these, is because factoring isn't actually possible on this one.